Hey guys, Raymond here from the Beginner Photography Podcast, and today we are talking about what it takes to become a Super Bowl photographer. So let's get into it.
Welcome to the Beginner Photography Podcast with Raymond Hatfield, the podcast dedicated to interviewing world-class photographers to ask them the questions you want answered. Whether you want to be the world's best wedding photographer, family photographer, pet photographer, or you just want to take better photos of your kids growing up, we will get you to start taking better photos today. Here with you as always, husband, father, home brewer, LA Dodgers fan, and award-winning Indianapolis wedding photographer, Raymond Hatfield.
Thank you all so much for joining me today and listening to the Beginner Photography Podcast. I hope that you guys are having a wonderful week. We're hopefully coming to the end of winter, so if you live somewhere snowy, I hope that it's starting to warm up. It is kind of here in Indianapolis. Today it's supposed to be like 60, when yesterday I think it was like 13. It's just been really strange weather, but I'm hoping that it starts to warm up and we can get outside and I can schedule more engagement sessions, because obviously this time of the year a lot of people get engaged. I book a lot of sessions. The problem being the weather is so unpredictable, you don't know what's going to happen. So if you plan something 3 weeks out, 4 weeks out, it all sounds good on paper. Come the week before, the weather report says, oh no, it's going to be, blizzarding that day. And trying to come up with some interesting ideas or unique workarounds can be tough sometimes. So I've been trying to schedule my engagement sessions recently indoors, maybe a coffee shop or going to a shooting range, or just this last weekend I had an engagement session in a brewery and it turned out fantastic. It was frigid, which is why it worked out so well, right? When it's nice outside, everybody wants to be outside. They want to, be in the trees. They want like great shots outside and just looking like this is what they do all the time. They go out and they have fun. But when it's really cold, you don't really want to fake those photos. Like that's not what I want to do. I don't want to go out and take those photos, at the park bench or next to the tree when it's so cold that you can't even feel your fingers or that your nose starts to get red, and then fake it to make it look warm. I mean, it can be done, sure, but I would rather get something genuine with a couple, because when they're comfortable with each other, then the photos are just going to be better. So I'm super happy that we planned it for a brewery, and it was super great. I had never been to this place before. It's called St. Joseph's Brewing Company in downtown Indy, and it's actually an old church, which was just made a really cool backdrop. A lot of great photos in there, and we did end up walking around outside as it warmed up a little bit, but the wind, picked up. So that is why, once again, the couple just started to get a little bit uncomfortable. It was cold. They wanted to put on their jackets as soon as possible, and I completely understood. But I'm glad that we got some of the shots inside, because if we had to do it exclusively outside, it wouldn't have been as fun, and it wouldn't have been as memorable. Always have a backup is what I'm trying to say. Especially if you live somewhere where it's really cold. If you live in like Florida or Texas or, Southern California, well then you guys could just do whatever you want year round, I suppose. But when you live in the more northern states where it actually snows a little bit, you got to get creative when it comes to planning your engagement session. And you also want it to match the couple, because ultimately it's their photos and you're doing it for them and not to build your portfolio. Guys, I am super excited about this episode because I've been trying to set this up for a few weeks now and finally happened. And there are so many great tips in today's interview. I know a lot of you out there have kids. Kids like to play sports when they're grown up, soccer, baseball, football, basketball as well. And a lot of times you want to take your camera. Especially if you're listening to this podcast and you're into photography, you're probably going to want to take your camera and take photos of your kids. And this episode has so many great actionable tips for parents looking to take better photos of their kids during sports. And also, great tips on how to become, or how to, kind of get your way into professional sports photography. So no matter who you are, you know what? Even if you don't have kids, even if you don't shoot sports, I guarantee that this episode is going to have a lot of value for you, because as you'll find out, it is not all about, being the best sports photographer. A lot of it is just about being nice to people and the human connection. And today's guest shares a lot of great tips, so I hope that you enjoy. Also, before we get into this episode, a lot of you have been, I've noticed this week in particular, so many people have been going over to the beginnerphotographypodcast.com to download our Lightroom presets. And the response that I've been getting back has been phenomenal. I'm so happy all of you are getting a ton of use out of these presets, and they're absolutely free, which is the best part. So if you want to speed up your editing workflow or get a better understanding of how Lightroom works and how editing works within Lightroom, these presets are going to be great for you. So go ahead and head over to beginnerphotographypodcast.com, and there's a link right up at the top to download the presets. Absolutely free. Give it a shot. So let's go ahead and get into today's episode right now with the incredible Vincent Pugliese. Today's guest has shot just about every major sporting event, from NBA playoffs, the Super Bowl, the Kentucky Derby, and my favorite, the World Series. So to say that he knows what he's talking about when it comes to sports photography would be a complete understatement, as his photos have been published in almost every national news outlet. So today I'm really excited to get into it with today's guest, Vinny Pugliese. Is that it? Did I pronounce it right?
Got it. Nailed it. Nobody ever gets it right. You got it.
Wow, that was a complete shot in the dark. I'm so surprised that I got that right.
Easier just to go ahead and try it. Don't overthink it.
Yeah, you might as well, right? There's no sense in wasting time. So, was all that right? I mean, that is a resume that is just incredible to have. I mean, some people's like dying wish is obviously just to go to one Super Bowl, and here you are on the field with the players. So obviously you didn't start out at the top. So how long have you been in photography?
23 years now. It's crazy when I hear those things. It's like, it doesn't sound like it's me. Like I think back, like, yeah, I was there. Yeah, I shot that. But that seems like it's somebody else's thing when you read that. So that's pretty humbling to hear. So
that's all you. That is all you, man.
It honestly is. It's so much about relationships and connections, and I think that gets so lost in the photography world sometimes, in terms of getting what you have to get. But everything that I've gotten is due to relationships that we've formed since the very beginning. I mean, and I started as low as you could possibly get. I was broke. I bought a camera because I was desperate, because I really just wanted to try something different as opposed to failing at everything that I had failed already. I mean, it was really the case. I was 22 years old and I was living with my parents, and I still hadn't moved out. And my dad just one night really kind of jolted me and said, you should try this. And I said, I failed at everything that I've tried so far, so I might as well. This sounds cool. So I bought a camera the next day, and I enrolled in community college the next day, and I really wanted to do sports photography. Like, instead of sitting on the couch watching the games, I'm like, could I really be one of those guys that's on the field? And that's really was the thought. And so I would buy tickets, and I was in New York. I would buy tickets to the Mets game, the Yankee game, and I would sneak into the front. I would buy the cheapest seat, and I would sneak into the front row almost every game. And I would just shoot pictures. And so I'd go back the next day, and I'd look at the newspaper. I'd see what pictures the real photographers took. And then I would start comparing myself, and like, how did I do? And then I would start asking the photographers. I would sneak down by the photo wells, and I would ask them what film they used, who they worked for. And they probably got so tired of me, But I was in the front row 3 or 4 nights a week of a baseball or hockey game, football.
That's insane. That's hilarious to hear you say that at 22 you felt like you had failed at everything and you were about to give up, when it's like, I'm 29 now and I still feel like I know nothing. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing in life. So when you first started taking photos, when you'd sneak into these games, what was the plan from there? Did you just take photos and just kind of hoard them, or was the goal to sell them? I guess, what was the business side of the sports photography for you?
The business side. I don't think I even heard that word, the business side. It's like I had no plan except to just try to get better. That was the only thing I wasn't thinking, how am I going to monetize this? Like, that's the word now. Like, how do you go get better, before you worry about monetizing it yet. And that's so uncomfortable today, because I think it's such a quick culture now. You put something on Instagram, you get the likes. Like, what next? It's like, but you don't hone your craft that way. You hone it by making mistakes. And that's what I just wanted to get better, and I just wanted experiences. It's what I really wanted. I wanted to not sit in office. Is what I really wanted to do. I did not want to wear a tie. And if I could if I could make even then like $30,000 somehow doing that as opposed to making 150 as an accountant, I feel like I have won, because that's just my personality. And I'm going to get experience. I'm going to be able to tell stories. I'm going to meet people. So that was the whole thing. I had such a low expectation that I couldn't really fail, and that was really nice.
Wow, that's like a super refreshing way to hear about how you get into photography, because I feel like today, like you were saying, it's a really quick culture. Everybody wants instant. And a lot of times there's a lot of people a lot of listeners who want to get into wedding photography. And I think that a big part of it is because they just see the dollar signs attached to the wedding photography, as opposed to thinking, how can I take the best photo and then how can I apply that on a wedding day? So I think that your approach was, I would say today would be completely unique, which is really weird to think about.
I honestly think Facebook and Instagram, if that would have been around in 1994, I wouldn't have done what I did. Simply because I would have been looking for the likes, and I would have been looking for the comments, and I would have actually thought I was a lot better than I was, because my mom would have been telling me. But my mom didn't even see the pictures because I had filmed, and by the time I got it done, she was doing something else, you know. So I had nobody to show except for an editor, and those editors were real with me. They said, yeah, this one's okay, but these suck. I don't know if I can use that word in your podcast, but, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
I remember my first portfolio critique, and you actually did this. This is going to date me. You used to have slides. And you would go to photo editors, and a sleeve of 20 slides. And I had, you know, meticulously crafted your portfolio, this, that. And I remember going to Joe Elbert from the Washington Post. I met him at some conference. And I was so nervous, and I gave him my 20 slides. This was like my holy grail. And he looked at it, and he pulled 2 pictures out, and he slid the thing back to me, 18 pictures. I thought I did pretty good. And he showed me the 2 pictures. He goes, these can stay. Everything else has to go.
That must have been a real boost of confidence for you.
For a moment, I was heartbroken. And then I said, well, I got 2. I got 2 that Joe Albert said worked. So I put that back in, and I started over with those 2. But with Instagram, everybody's so great all the time in everybody's opinion that it's like, well, I should get paid, but this guy's getting paid. But it's not just that one picture. It's how do you do consistently? How do you do when the weather's not good? How do you do when, you know, if you're doing weddings, how the mother-in-law is treating you poorly, or the light's terrible. It's how you do it consistently. Because we've done weddings for 12 years now. And, yeah, so I think it was really good being able to get started that way, where I didn't have the public perception. I was a nobody for a long time.
I think it's also much more fun that way, because it really can take the wind out of your sails when you're having a good time and you think that what you have is really good, and then you show it off to the world and you get no likes or comments or anything on it. So
yeah.
So can you kind of talk me through the transition of how then you went from shooting these games that you'd sneak into as an unofficial photographer to, was the next step looking at or showing your photos to editors?
Yeah, well, the next step was learning how it was done, because what I noticed is Nassau Coliseum in New York, it's not there anymore. Actually, they're rebuilding it. But you can literally walk up to the glass, and I can see the photographers there. Now there are different levels. You know, you have to kind of step down to get there. You can just literally walk up and pull up a folding chair. So I kind of watched the photographers, and I noticed that the fans that wanted to take pictures usually had a jersey on and a hat, and they were all excited to get down by the glass, and they got kicked out immediately. So I watched, and all the photographers looked bored. They all just looked bored sitting there, like, oh, yeah. So I remember I showed up the next game, I wore like a regular boring sweater, and I pulled up, and I had my cameras, and I sat down, and and I had the chair, and the security guard comes up to me, and I go, another game. And he goes, yep. It was my first time I ever did it. He goes, yep, another game. And I was like, I'm in. So I got his name. I started talking. So I probably shot the whole season there. They never knew that I wasn't even credentialed. So I kind of learned how it worked a little bit, like how the protocol was to being a professional. Nobody was overwhelmed by it. You know, when you read my bio, all my friends go, big deal. They've all done the same thing. So there's nothing special about it. You know, you just elevate and elevate. But what happened with me, I got very lucky and unlucky. I probably sent phone calls. I probably I called probably 100 different publications around the country to see if I could get a free internship, and everybody turned me down. Newspapers, magazines, no. Everybody said no. Like, do you have a degree? No, I didn't have a degree. I had nothing except a little portfolio. Well, I finally got very lucky. Bruce Bennett Studios out of New York, they were the team photographers for the Rangers and Islanders and the Devils, and I was a huge hockey fan. They were looking for an intern. So I said, is there any possibility that I could ever shoot again? Maybe. So I got a free internship where I basically restocked shelves and files and slides, and I would do that every day. And I would, I get to meet the photographers that actually shot the games. And then eventually I got offered a game. It was the day before my birthday, November 22nd. I still remember it. And it was the first game ever, Mario Lemieux versus Mark Messier, Rangers versus Penguins. So it was really a cool game to shoot. But that was the very beginning, and I would do those games for very little money, but I would build my portfolio. I would get a good shot, and then it would get published. I got a hockey card. I got in some magazines. They started to trust me a little bit more. That led to an internship at Newsday in New York, where I got paid like $25 a day. But I was shooting New York Giants. I was shooting, the Yankees in the World Series. But it wasn't very much money. But that led to another gig and connections. And by the time you've done that for a couple different places, people get to know your name a little more. If you've been nice to people, they will like you, and it continues. The ones that I wasn't nice to didn't like me, and it didn't continue with that. So.
But screw them. They're in the past now.
Yeah, exactly.
So that kind of brings me to my next question is when I go to a sports game, I see a lot of photographers on the field. And my first question is, who do these photographers work for? Do they work for the team? Is it like a freelance thing? Or are they working for publications? Or how does that work?
It's all of them. If you see the guys in the bright colored vest at an NFL game, like you were at that Colts game,
yeah.
They've got a brighter color vest. They have more access. They can go on the field beforehand. It used to be that we all could. They've made that a little more restricted, so they can go anywhere. They go in the locker rooms. They go they can go by the sidelines, and we can't go like inside like the team sidelines. We can't. We can go to the 35-yard line.
And you said that those are the team photographers, right?
Yeah, and there'll generally be a couple from each team. If the Steelers go on the road, they'll travel with their photographers. The Colts will have their own guys. There's that, and then you have a variety. You have wire services like USA Today and Getty. Then you have your local newspapers, and then you have a handful of internet services that might get credentials if they have enough credibility. So it's a combination of newspapers, wire services, magazines, and people that work for the team.
How does that normally work for you? What would you think today, if you had to start over today, would be the best avenue to go?
Probably a small newspaper would be. It depends on it all depends on connections, because nobody's just going to call you up and hire you. And a lot of times you're going to have to do it, for very little money. Or sports photography, I'll tell you, it's not very high paying. It is not the thing that we do to take our kids on vacation. But it is a very awesome loss leader for our business. We do okay with the sports, and I've never tried to do phenomenal with it. But I tell you, when you shoot weddings and you shoot sports in Pittsburgh, like I had a 2-page spread in Sports Illustrated about 2 years ago.
Wow, well, congratulations.
Thank you. So our clients saw that, and I had it in the book. They wanted to see it at with the wedding album. So I'm with the parents, and it was a high-priced wedding, and I show them the wedding book, but the dad's looking at the Sports Illustrated. So I said, I have a picture in here. I showed it to him. And he looked at me, and his daughter wanted to hire me already. He wasn't sure because it was a lot of money. And he looked at me, he looked up, and he goes, well, if you're good enough for the Penguins and Sidney Crosby, you're good enough for my daughter. And he hired us on the spot. And I was like, and that happened probably maybe about 3 or 4 times that year. Same type of thing. So even on our website, we have sports prominent because people relate to it.
Yeah. Do you just now bring that Sports Illustrated to every client meeting?
Yeah, it's so worn out. Yeah.
I had a question about recently in a Facebook group that I'm in. There's been a lot of discussion about specifically only shooting RAW, and then a few years ago, I believe it was Getty who said that photographers could only submit JPEG images, and then sports photographers almost overnight, it seemed, switched completely just to JPEG. And then, of course, as wedding photographers, people get upset with that. I don't know why. But is there any way that you could walk me through your workflow on a game day? Whether, a lot of people have questions whether you edit the photos, if you just hand cards over to somebody, and I guess, do you shoot RAW or do you shoot JPEG?
I do both. I try to do both because I want the RAW image. Because if you get that shot, you want it in RAW. You don't want it in JPEG. But they don't want them in RAW. They want quick turnaround. That's why anybody that's comparing the wedding world to the sports world, it's 2 different careers, 2 different businesses. Weddings, you're not working on a deadline where you need to submit an image as soon as the period's over because you need to beat the 6 other wire services. But that's what they're going through. So they don't want to download the bigger files. and have to go through that. They want a good enough image now. So a workflow for me, it depends on who I'm shooting for. Like I'll shoot for a couple of, magazines or weekly publications on purpose because I don't want to transmit that night. I want to shoot the pictures I want to shoot. And I've built my career up that I can do that. But if I'm shooting for a wire service, say Getty, because I shot for them for a couple of years, you are shooting pre-game. You are coming back and transmitting a handful of images for them. Like say it's a hockey game. You're coming out in between. You're transmitting maybe 5 to 7 images. You're coming right back. You're shooting the first period. Same situation. They're probably going to want 20 images from the game, but they have to be done probably within 10, 15 minutes of the game being over, all of them. And then they want a second edit the next day, which kind of was a deal breaker for me because it didn't used to be that way. When I shot with the AP way back, you shot your film, you transmitted a couple percent of the film, and you were done. The wire service, they're asking for a lot more work, but they're not a lot more money. So so what I've built my career lately is finding ways to do it without having to go through all that. I would still be shooting for Getty because they're the most prominent, the most well-known, but I didn't enjoy the workflow. I didn't enjoy the pictures that I had to shoot because of it, because they want a lot more, not Getty, but AP wants more standard stuff, guy throwing the ball, but I want more storytelling images for myself. So I find the avenues that I could do that for, the different magazines or publications I could do that for. So does that help in terms of the workflow?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's so insane that in between okay. While you're at the game, you still have to send photos back. That is, maybe if hiring multiple wedding photographers at a wedding becomes a thing, maybe that'll be an option, is starting to deliver photos that next day.
Well, the lucky thing with your brides, or they are basically your wire service, your magazine, and they're kind of busy that night. They're not waiting for real time pictures to come in. So
good point.
It's a totally different. If you're shooting a wedding, yeah, you got to shoot everything on RAW.
Yeah. When it comes to wedding photography, as you know, there's an easy story to tell, right? The getting ready of the day, this person loves this person, they confess their love, and then they party the night away. When it comes to sports photography, are you trying to tell a story, or how do you take photos, if you are, for a story that is untold yet, or you don't know the outcome to?
That's what I love about it. To me, in a lot of ways, it's very similar to weddings. We shoot weddings the same way. We don't recreate anything because it's just like with football. Antonio Brown makes that 50-yard diving catch. I can't ask him to do it again. So it's my job as a photographer to get it. And that's the challenge of it. If I can recreate everything, it's kind of boring to me. I'll get the picture, but where's the challenge in doing what I'm doing? Because you can really fall back on that a lot. So we look at it as it's my wife and I. We're equal in this business, and she's a better photographer than I am. So I'm a better sports photographer. She's a better photographer. But it's the type of thing where, we look at everything like a story. You walk into a wedding, it's very easy to be like, well, it's all the same. Well, no, it's not, because I can walk into Heinz Field and say it's all the same. They're wearing the same uniforms, same stadium, same field, and same clock. We know when it's going to start. We know when it's going to end. Somebody's going to win. Somebody's going to lose. But what happens during that time is what the story is. It's not. So same thing with weddings. Every client is different. Every client has different emotions, different families, different dynamics, and we go into it looking for what are the nuances and dynamics of this person, so that when they look at the pictures, they go, "That's really me. That's not the photographer doing a pose. That was really the way my husband laughs, or looks, or cries." So it's a challenge. We leave the house every day. We got this bag full of discs that are empty. And when we come home that night, we have to have this complete story of who these people really are when we get back. And that's our challenge. So it's very similar to sports, in my mind.
Well, what is it that you're trying to, when you go into a game, what are you thinking? What is your main goal, right?
Screw up.
Don't screw up, yeah. Okay, so aside from that, what is the photo that you want to take? Is it the emotion? Is it the catch? Kind of walk me through that. It's what's that?
You don't know.
Yeah.
That's what I love about it. I love uncertainty. And the AFC Championship game 2 weeks ago. You don't know. I mean, I can't walk into there saying I want to get the Steelers winning the AFC Championship and then look around and be like, wait, they didn't do that. I didn't get it. No, you didn't get it because it didn't happen. What did happen? Did you capture the plays that they had? Is your back? And that goes into what we were talking about. What I emailed you, how are your backgrounds? How are you setting up the way that you shoot? Are you setting yourself up for failure by shooting with the other bench in the background or a really, bright scoreboard to where if they do make the catch, you've got a big distraction behind you? Or are you setting yourself up? Do you know how the play is going to go? Like, do you know the tendency of the players? Where does the quarterback like to throw the ball on third down? You study it, and so it makes it easier. So people go, how do you get those pictures? Well, you pay attention. Pay attention to the players. You pay attention to their body language.
Wow, that's a whole lot more goes into sports photography than I think a lot of people realize. When you just mentioned that, when you got to really study the players, you got to study what it is that they do and how they play each game, which is funny because it's essentially what the whole job of the other team, right, is to try to study the players, figure out how they're going to play the game so that when they face them, they can stop them from, I don't know, making an advancement or something. So You start to learn these things. You start to get instinct. It's funny. I'm kind of annoying to watch a football game with because I'll tell you what happens. I'm looking through my lens tight at these. I know when it's a false start. They don't even know that a flag's been dropped yet. I'm like, so they throw a touchdown with the I'm like, oh, it's coming back. But what? Did you see this? So you kind of get the sixth sense because that's what you watch every day and you study. I went to film school because originally I wanted to be a cinematographer, and my wife will just not watch any movies with me for the same reason. I'll be like, why would that? There's no reason that this camera should be moving right now, and she just gets so aggravated with me. That's hilarious.
My friend's into music, and he's like, the more you play it, the more it ruins music for you because you don't get the way you don't feel it and hear the way that you did when you were a music fan. You go, why they do it that? I wish they would. You start doing that type of stuff, and it's the same thing.
So can you obviously can't just passively go watch a sports game anymore?
Oh yeah, I can, but I don't. I am so. We watched the Super Bowl, and that was fun. We've watched, but I used to be a huge sports fan on television, and with the commercials and it's so. I gotta be honest with you. Sorry, sports world. It's so boring to me now to watch on television. And the thing that you think my kids would be so into it, like this is what I've done. They could care less. They're into bugs. They're into dirt. Like they're into doing their own. And I love that because I don't want to sit in front of the TV for 4 hours watching every game. Now, there's certain games, yeah, but I'm not annoying, I don't think. I hope not. I'll ask my wife if I'm annoying to watch a game.
Yeah, she'll have the answers for sure.
Exactly.
When I watch like lots of sports games on TV, I'm a huge Dodger fan. I love the Dodgers. Whenever I watch, there's always these photographers. All of them that you see, they have lenses, a meter long, cost $10,000 plus. What would you suggest to maybe the parent or the beginner sports photographer who obviously just doesn't want to refinance their house to buy a new lens? What would you suggest for them?
You got to do the best with what you have. You have to just understand the limits of your camera so that you don't get disappointed by, like, if you've got a zoom lens that's 3.5 to 5.6, right? You've got a kit lens that you got at Best Buy. And you go to shoot your kid's basketball game inside. Now, I could hear the complaints every single time. It's too dark. It's too, the lights, the color of the lights, the movement. Well, a lot of that has to do with your gear. And you're limited by where you're shooting it. And there's no way around that in some ways without better gear. You could do certain things like getting closer to the court, get permission to see if you can, because the closer you get to the court, the light reflecting off the floor, depending on the area, you're going to get better light from your subjects, and they're not going to be as much. The movement's going to be easier to stop, which is going to make for a better picture. Outside, you're better. You get more available light. But what they have to do, what I see so many parents that shoot pictures of their kids make the mistake is they don't pay attention to their backgrounds at all. So they'll get a good picture of their kid running, but there's this awful yellow minivan right behind them. And they had the option to move and get a spot where when the kid does cut the corner with the ball, you got a nice, clean background. So using your lenses well and paying attention to the backgrounds are two big things I see people making big mistakes with in the beginning.
Smart. I love it. So not only is it obviously sports photography and just photography in general isn't only about the camera gear, but it's so much more about the technicals and the extras, like you said, looking out for the background just to try to make the photo so much better.
Yeah, and I think so many people are so wrapped up in getting like that picture of their kid with the ball when there's so many pictures they miss, like the quiet moments, like the stuff before the game, after the game. Really that's when the storytelling images happen. That's when you, like, I mean, there is nothing more, for me, more exciting at an NFL game than right after the national anthem is sung and they start the game. That is my favorite time. The
Why is that?
goosebumps. Because they're all real. They're not machines at that point. You see the emotion on their. You don't see the emotion during the game for the most part. You see it then. They're like wide-eyed kids. They're about to go play in this game. It might be the last game they ever play in football because you don't know with injuries. They know that. They block it all out. But there is something between that national anthem and right before the kickoff that it's just really cool. So if you want to get a real storytelling picture of an NFL player, a lot of it happens then or right when the game ends.
What do you try to focus on then?
What, before or after?
Like right after the national anthem, right after it finishes. Where are you going? What shot are you trying to get?
It depends on where I'm situated. I could be lining up just for action sometimes. Depends on how lazy I am. But often I'll be along the sidelines and I'm looking for that, that player just saying a prayer or jumping off of the bench or hugging a teammate or going just maybe something even just really, really kind of visual where they're kind of down low and you're wide with the stadium. So you see the depth of field of where they are, like the sense of place of where they are and just them alone in that situation. I try not to predetermine very often. Mm-hmm. I try to respond to what's going on and make the images accordingly because you can go in and pre-visualize, but it's generally not going to happen the way you think. So you're best to be more adaptable and go in and find what's there and make it good.
How often, this is kind of side, I didn't have this written down or anything. How often are you looking through the camera and how often are you like just looking around trying to find something? Are you just firing away shots or are you spending less time behind the camera? I look around a lot because you're shooting with a 400 millimeter lens, you only see this really narrow perspective of where you are. Like I was telling you about the course that we did. One of the lessons is basically look behind you. One of my favorite pictures I ever shot was it was in Indy. It was at the old Dome, and it was modern day high school was playing because we used to cover them in Evansville, and they were playing for the state championship. They won the year before, and they lost to I think it was Fort Wayne. They were losing at the end of the game, and I had enough dejection of the team. You could see they were losing. But I had this feeling that I turned around and there were 4 cheerleaders from modern day in the front row, and they were crying and hugging each other. And so they were in the crowd, but that was the picture. And it was right behind me. But if I would have just focused on the field, I would have gotten another player kind of just running with the ball. And it ran front page, 6 columns. Like it was the picture. So it was directly behind me, not on the field, but that was the best picture that I made that night. That's genius. You just mentioned your new course, and I kind of want to talk about that because if there's anybody who should be teaching a course about sports photography, it's going to be you with all of your experience. So can you tell me a little bit about the course, who it's for, and what it is that people are going to learn?
Yeah. I've teamed up with this great guy named Kyle Schultz, become a very good friend of mine, and he runs a thing called Schultz Photo School. And I think he's got like 80,000 people within the school. It's fantastic. He teaches parents how to take better pictures of their kids. And we're in a mastermind group together, in a community together. And we met in November, and I said, I have an idea. And he said, yes. And I was like, well, you don't even know what I'm going to say. He said, go ahead and ask me. I said, why don't I do a sports photography course for your school? And he goes, that's exactly what I was thinking. And yes. So since then, we've been working on this, and it's just phenomenal. We have this 9 part course, free course, that we're giving anybody that wants it. And so it's basically talking through some of the things we talked about today. 9 lessons for the beginner parent photographer to take better pictures of their kids. In the spring, we're rolling out a paid course for anybody that wants it. But this is just something we're giving away, no strings attached. It's just something to help people see a little bit. And it has nothing to do with your camera. That's what Kyle loved about it. He goes, these are things that we talked about, like your backgrounds and how to do that. How to take a great sports picture with a wide angle lens. Because a lot of people don't have the good long lens. But there's ways of getting great sports pictures with a wide lens that are some of my favorite sports pictures that I shot with a wide lens. I didn't need a full 100. So there's a lot of things like that. So that's actually rolling out in just a couple of days. I think Valentine's Day, he said it's starting. So we're really excited about that.
Wow, yeah, that's incredible. Where can people find your course?
Schultz Photo School. I could read the address if you want.
You know what? You can just send me the link, and I'll go ahead and put it in the show notes for sure, so that anybody who wants to find it can just head over to the website and then just click the link and go over there and sign up. And a free course, I mean, it's hard to beat that. You can't beat a free course, especially for something that I feel like there's really not a lot of education on to begin with online. It's not really like a niche or anything, but it's something that requires other people. It's so hard to get like a group of models together to try to have them set up a sports game and then you go ahead and shoot that. So I think that sounds like a lot of fun.
What's really unique about this is what I realized as we were doing it is I had such a hard time getting this information myself when I started. I had to study and study. And what I realized, and to no fault of their own, nobody really wanted to give the information out because it meant that somebody was going to come along and use it and take their job away, right? And I'm in the fortunate position where I do a whole lot of different things. I coach business, I shoot sports, I shoot weddings, we do these courses. So I don't feel threatened by it at all. I can give all this stuff away and not feel any problem. So it's like I'm going deeper into this stuff than what anybody's told me, as opposed to like telling a story but not really giving me an actionable tip. Like we're giving really good actionable tips just because so you can take better pictures. Because I mean, you think about it, you spend so much money on your kids in sports, so much time, and to come away with these same, I hate to say it, crappy pictures that I keep seeing, it's like if I can help people do better with that, then it feels great.
That's hilarious. What is when you look at these photos from parents, what's the one thing that you see and you're like, oh yeah, this is definitely a photographer? What's the biggest mistake that they make?
Oh, I don't want to put anybody down. What's the biggest mistake? They don't get close enough.
Don't get close enough.
Physically get close enough. They rely on a zoom lens to get them closer, where sometimes that you need that, but often you don't. I guess the one thing, the pet peeve that I have when I see are people shooting from the bleachers, and please don't take offense to me, people that shoot from the bleachers, but you're generally not going to get a good picture from the bleachers at your kid's basketball game. You're going to have the woman in front of you with the white hair. You're going to use a flash. It's going to blow out her hair. Your kid's going to be dark. There's going to be motion. It takes a real, I mean, to get what I would consider a picture that's going to elevate you. You can get an okay picture. They might be dribbling the ball in the background, but it's not going to really make you stand out or really like have an emotion for you. See, I want my photographs to have some type of an emotion. I want to elicit either happiness or how you felt when you lost, just something that brings back memories and emotion. And that's what most photographers want to do.
So just get closer, get off those bleachers, just get closer to the kids, take better photos.
Yeah.
Knowing what you know now, what would you tell a young Vinny who just picked up his first camera about the world of sports photography?
Be nice to people. You probably weren't expecting that, right?
No, I wasn't.
I've seen so many people ruin so many opportunities by thinking about what they needed and nobody else. I'm serious. I can think of 10 names right now that they are great photographers and they're still stuck in the same position because they're thinking about what they need and they're not thinking about how I can help other people out. And you get everywhere by doing that. I mean, you just get everywhere. I mean, you just go out of your way to help other people. Every door will open for you over time. And I was pushy when in my 20s, so I kind of got places, but I would have gotten a lot further and with better relationships if the first half of my career I spent more time taking my own advice of just be nice. Just be nice and be helpful and work hard, and you'll get there. It happens every time.
Do you have any examples of something that you do? Maybe you meet somebody who, now obviously you said that you worked for Getty. Let's say that there's a wire service who you'd like to work for. You meet somebody, you're very nice to them. Is there anything that you do maybe to follow up with them afterwards to try to stay fresh in their mind? Oh,
totally. I mean, a lot of these people have their own products. Like, Bruce Benhart, he's got his own book, right? But very few people think, let me buy the book and let me leave a review for him on Amazon and thank him for what he did by doing this book. The problem most people do is, especially when they come upon people that are more successful, they think, well, these people have everything, so I don't need to give them anything. I need what they've got. Instead of thinking everybody's kissing their butt and everybody wants something from them, but nobody's really just looking to give them something. Nobody's looking to help them. And so I've noticed this as our career elevated and seeing the people that I'm around, like that's the way it works. But if you go out of your way to help, send a gift, write a thank you card. Just say, I really love your work. That one picture that I saw that really kind of changed my life. Do something to give back. And it doesn't take that much to do, but hardly anybody does it.
Makes sense.
But if you would ask me that 5 years ago, I probably wouldn't have given you that answer. But I've learned so much from the business part of this, from this, that I'm like, that's the first thing I would do.
I love it. Well, Vinny, I know that you are extremely busy, and I really want to be mindful of your time, of course, because you have so much going on right now. So can you tell the listeners where they can find you online? And, of course, like I said, I'm going to link to your free course as well so that they can find it there, too.
Awesome. I'm on Instagram. I should update more than I do, but it's Vinny Pug Photo. Elizabeth Vincent Photography is our website. And the sports course is, it's schultzphotoschool.com/sports. I'll send you the link so you can put it in there. But
that's actually really easy to remember.
It is, right? SHULTZ. There's no C in there. But schultzphotoschool.com/sports. And yeah, if anybody wants to sign up, it's going to be great. We're excited about it.
Well, again, Vinny, thank you so much for coming on, and I appreciate it. I cannot wait to see what a lot of the listeners learn from your sports course. It's going to be a blast.
If anybody has any questions, just send me an email at our website. I'll respond back, I promise.
Thank you so much. What did I tell you? What did I tell you? Even if you do not have kids or you do not want to be a sports photographer, there were so many things that I took away as a wedding photographer that I know is going to better the way that I shoot and how I even interact with clients. Everything that Vinny said was super relevant to, like I said, not only sports photographers, but should be to everybody else. Photography is about emotion, which he talks about, and it's about dealing with other people, right? If you want to get paid for your photos, you're going to be working with people. And you want to make sure that those people are happy with not only the photos, but the experience that they had with you. You want to make sure that you stick out in their mind. And oh my goodness, like I said, I am going to be changing quite a few things, I think, in my workflow just to enhance the client experience, just so that it's better. And Vinny, if you're listening right now, man, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing everything that you did. I'm excited because I know that a lot of listeners are going to sign up for your free course. And I highly recommend that everybody do that right now. Like I said, or like Vinny said in the interview, if you want to do that, you can find the links in the show notes of today's episode at beginnerphotographypodcast.com. You'll find Vinny's episode, and then you can scroll down to the bottom and click the link from there. Or you can just go to schultzphotoschool.com/sports. That's SHULTZ photoschool.com/sports. And that's it. Guys, if you like this episode, I would be forever grateful if you could leave me a rating or a review in iTunes or whatever podcast app that you're listening to me on right now. It really helps grow the podcast. It really helps other beginner photographers find the podcast. And that is what is ultimately going to let us interview bigger names to get you better information so that you can grow your skills and knowledge of photography to become whatever it is that you want to become. So again, thank you so much. That is it. Guys, if you have any questions, feel free to email me at beginnerphotographypodcast@gmail.com. Reach out to us on Facebook at facebook.com/beginnerphotographypodcast, or find us on Instagram at username beginnerphotopodcast. Guys, that is all that I have for this week. I know that you enjoyed it. I will see you next time, and until then, keep shooting.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Beginner Photography Podcast. Be sure to join the conversations on Facebook and Instagram. And if you want any links or resources we talked about in today's episode, check out the show notes at beginnerphotographypodcast.com. See you again next week.